Well, hello there, and welcome to yet another episode on the Six Week Podcast. This time, it's the episode number 2 for What Are We Watching? So, boys, what are you watching?
What have we been watching, Umar?
I have been watching something that I wish I wasn't. I'll tell you that.
Oh no 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 no
Uh,
no 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 no! You
Umar?
see, I've been
It
reading
was
the
a.
chat, right, and I'm
It,
literally here enjoying it. I'm literally enjoying my ass off to it, and then I have a good friend of mine with elite opinions that I tend to agree with 98% of the time. Both of us Chelsea fans, as we all know. But for some reason, you have something against my boy. You have something against the man of the hour, which is Loki. Talk to me, man. What's going on? What's going on here?
Man, I just feel like okay. So you know how when we were kids, all these Marvel movies began. The whole franchise began with like Iron
Yeah.
Man and Hulk and whatnot. It was good, and we were invested. And as we grew up, the movies, the cinema, like the whole universe came together, right? And the movies were interesting. There was a storyline and everything, and I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I think Endgame, oh sorry, Infinity War was probably my favorite Marvel movie. I
Yeah,
loved it. It
Oh
was
yeah,
dark.
yeah,
no
yeah.
doubt.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
It was something different compared to, the usual jolly movies you get. And then with Endgame, there was like a conclusion to that whole universe, and you thought, wow, okay, they've done a very good thing. And what they've tried to do now with these new three TV shows that have come out is like, take it forward from there with not those main characters. There's no more, Chris Evans as Captain America, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and whatever. They're trying to move away from that. And although I agree with the idea, and the execution of it was just poor. I mean, Loki was, if you look at the TV show itself, right? Like, spoiler alert
Mm.
if you haven't watched it. The first Avengers
The
movie when Loki is caught in the elevator and like Hulk is like going down, he's not
yeah,
allowed on
yeah. I
the
remember that
elevator.
scene.
So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
TV
yeah, yeah.
show is taking place at that time when Loki
Yeah,
disappears from there.
Oh,
um
okay.
he gets
yeah,
the tesseract, is that what it's called?
Yeah, just
yeah,
And he
yeah,
managed
yeah, yeah.
to vanish, remember?
Yeah.
So this is taking place at that time, and at that time Loki was a little bitch. That's the only way you can describe him at that point in time.
He
just a
He had a
little?
change of heart,
a,
whatever,
a,
that was like way into
a,
the
a,
future.
a, a, a troubled little bitch, a man looking for affection, a man looking for love, you know how it goes. But go on.
Exactly, exactly. So this TV show is set at that time, and Loki's going around calling himself in this over the 6 episodes the God of Mischief, the God of Mischief. Did he actually do anything at all that was mischievous? He
Any.
was he was like the nicest guy in the world. He was like the superhero of the show. Like, I don't understand.
He resembled a lot of what you saw during, I think, maybe Ragnarok and the beginning of Infinity War, just before his untimely death. But I liked where it was going, man. Because you could still see traces of his original personality, where he's somewhat witty, but at the same time, I think throughout, as the episodes began to progress, he began to realize, oh, this is actually what I'm going through right now. What's happening to me right now? There are much bigger forces than myself at play. And at the same time, the thing that I was thinking, he was just trying to get an appointment with the so-called, crap, this is a bit of a spoiler, but I think a lot of the things we're going to be saying here are pretty in that territory.
Spoilery.
So I'm just gonna, make a disclaimer,
As
right?
long as
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
very.
too
I was about to say
spoilery,
that.
yeah.
So, yeah, but like he obviously wanted to get that meeting with the timekeepers, right? In the hopes that he would be restored to his original timeline. It just so happens that a lot of events took place, and a lot of these events like probably influenced him in some way, but I enjoyed it, man. His whole dynamic with Owen Wilson as well, who played Mobius. His, like it was a fun, interesting series, and we won't necessarily only have to talk about Loki. We can talk about WandaVision as well. I don't know if you guys saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, we're just talking about
I
whatever, right? It
think
doesn't
out of
necessarily have
all
to
the
be Loki. It can
shows,
just be like anything that's been the series. Yeah.
yeah, out of all the shows, Falcon and Winter Soldier is probably the least popular one. I don't think anyone.
Oh yeah.
It's like the least talked about as well. I don't know what the reason behind it is, but I for sure saw WandaVision, and I was just gonna ask that question, like, how do you guys
Mm.
compare Loki to WandaVision? Because I think WandaVision might have been the most popular one since it was the first one.
Well, wait, before we get into WandaVision, I just want to answer one thing for Ricky, right? He's talking about how, it was
Yeah.
the elements of Loki we saw from Ragnarok, which is great, which is true. There was that
Mm.
wittiness, there
Mm.
was that, but
But
he
it's moment.
was,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he had a change of heart at that point. He was kind of like a good guy,
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sort of a
Yeah. Yeah.
situation.
I know what you're gonna say, but carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. Personally, I did not enjoy that. I mean, I'm sorry, but
It's fine. It's fine.
it is what it is, I haven't seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I do plan on watching it probably over the Eid holidays or something.
Mm.
But WandaVision, I really, really enjoyed that. I don't know. It was just something about it, like the
I think it was the earlier episodes, the way it was directed. It was really smart, right? How there were these cues where you knew that it was like they had that combination of a sitcom, and there would be a change in the cinematic direction when you knew that, oh, it's getting real now. You get me? Whereas the beginning of the episodes, it would be like, that sitcom part, and then eventually there would be a camera shift, and you'd notice that it would be a more cinematic experience. And now we're experiencing what's really going on with Wanda and Vision, right? That's the parts that I enjoyed, and throughout the progression of each episode, you saw that it's becoming more modern, it's becoming closer to the present, and the way it eventually just led to that plot twist where everything was revealed for the absolute hawks, like, or whatever it was, it was really smartly done. I really enjoyed it, the whole thing.
Like all those episodes, like as you were talking about, there was a shift in the scene or whatever, and
Yeah.
you could just tell that there's something fake going on. I remember
Yeah.
the part where she saw the helicopter in the bushes,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I
toy
remember
helic.
that as well.
I remember seeing that. I'm like, yo, yo,
Y-
yo, yo,
Where'd that come from?
yo, where'd that come from?
That's not in the right timeline. It's not in the right time. What's that doing here? We're still in the 1980s, bro.
I think what was best about it is that we weren't seeing it from the point of Wanda. We were seeing it from the point of Vision, everything, right? Like
Yeah.
we
Mm,
were in complete darkness. And for us, what we were, as the show progressed, and we realized for us, what was major spoilers, by the way, but what we perceived to be the twist was that, Wanda was in control of everything. She was keeping everyone out and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Agatha just comes and, blows everything
yeah,
out of the park. And
Yeah.
you're like, wow.
exactly. Oh, was that the name of her neighbor, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
was that the name
Agatha.
of the villain?
so her name in the sitcoms was Agnes, which was like a shorter version
Yeah,
of her
Agnes.
villain name, Agatha Harkness.
Oh, dude, that one neighbor, that just keeps on persisting on, having dinner together or whatever. She's so, oh, I can't say it here, but you guys know what I mean. Ah,
I liked
but
it though, but
but
just going
yeah.
back, how would you guys compare Loki to WandaVision in terms of, because when I watched WandaVision, I felt like the slow was very slow. You know, it took too long for me to develop to
To get
that
hooked.
pinnacle point, right?
Mhm.
And the conclusion was rushed. I
Maybe.
felt like after I finished, I was like, when season 2 coming out? You know, is this just Marvel milking the fans more for like more money, or are they actually interested in producing good quality content? Because TV series are usually much more underfunded, but looking at the production costs for these series is actually insane. So how would you guys,
Um,
like, in terms of like production and in terms of like, customer satisfaction or fan satisfaction, how would you guys rate it against WandaVision?
I think with these shows, it's not necessary. This is another point of issue I have with Loki, by the way. With these shows, what they did was they didn't focus on these stories itself, but what it could lead to. I don't know if you saw that thing
Yeah,
I
exactly.
sent, that
Yeah,
Instagram
I
post
saw
where the guy,
the
yeah,
one on Instagram, right? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So it's more of like building up for what could be, and the possibilities there are. But that's the issue I have, because with the show Loki itself, I mean, it was a pretty disappointing end to what seemed like a great build up. I think the first 2 or 3 episodes were great, and then after that it just fell off so bad.
So very similar to WandaVision then, because WandaVision was very similar as well. Like they built it up for a pretty like 5 episodes, and they just rushed the conclusion.
The,
Do
the
you
thing
reckon that's
about
the? Yeah, go
WandaVision,
on,
in
go
my
on. I'll let you
opinion,
finish. Yeah.
yeah, the thing about WandaVision is though it had a satisfying ending. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Like I'm
Oh,
happy
okay.
with the way it ended. Like you get me?
Mm-hmm.
There was a clear villain in the story. There was a clear, change of whatever dynamic or whatever, and everything in the end was the way it was supposed to be. Whereas with Loki, for example, I mean, where do we go from here? Because the
But I- but
possibilities are like endless, right?
but I think that's the point, though. I think that's what people have been alluding to, which is that there will be a second season,
Mhm.
and it's man, it's hard to not talk about it without it delving into spoiler territory. So I'm just gonna make another spoiler disclaimer. But it's quite obvious what they're trying to do. At the end where you had the man who is supposed to be Kang the Conqueror, apparently from the comics, who's one of the timekeepers, which is literally from the video that you sent me. The fact that he died means that there's going to be a branching of the timeline, which is going to eventually lead to the multiversal war, right? So they literally knew what they were doing with that, because with that, now they can just have possibly like multiple superheroes from multiple dimensions, which is for example, that Spider-Man movie that's been alluded to have the two previous
Yeah.
Spider-Mans. What better way to set that film up, right? Now you're gonna have Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland in that movie. Yo, if I get to see something like that, considering how big of a fan I was of the original Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, that would actually be sick, man. So that's what they're alluding to, I guess. But the problem with Marvel is there an end though? Like this train has been going on since 2008. It's 2021 now. 2008 since the first Iron Man movie, right? And then they just kept on going and building up and building up.
Capitalism
Like
sucks, everybody.
precisely, and we just keep falling for it because at the end of the day it's our childhood heroes, that we saw in the cartoons or whatever. And let's face it, everybody's going to watch it because of the hype. Like the hype train is always going to be there. It's easy media, it's easy consumption. They know what they're doing, man. I have to give the hats off to them. They're smart with their marketing, man. They're smart with their planning as well. But at the
I
same
agree.
time, yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
But like, when you do it with movies, it makes a little bit more sense because you watch 2 hours and that's it, right? You watch 2 hours of Iron Man, you go to the next movie, you watch 2 hours of that, you get to the next movie. By the
Mm,
time you get to the third or fourth or fifth movie, right, you still can retain all the information
yeah,
and you get those references.
yeah,
However,
exactly.
when you watch 6 seasons of 6 different TV shows, right, or like,
Let me just add
yeah,
add that there's episodes within those seasons. Like there's
it's
episode one,
w-
episode two.
yeah,
There's a week between those. So
how are you gonna
you lose a
manage
lot.
to sustain it? Even if they are able to, combine it all together at the end with different multiverse theories with like Spider-Man, like how is it gonna be like, consumable for the audience at the end of the day? Is it just gonna be overwhelming, or is this again, you know, they're gonna be like, hey, you know what? Subscribe to Disney Plus and go watch it again.
But I think it's like, I think they've, at the same time, they've made their own audience, Marvel. They have that really loyal following, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to have these hardcore comic fanboys. You have your Marvel fanboys and your DC fanboys. And let's face it, maybe back then, if you told people that you used to watch these kind of things with superheroes and stuff, maybe you would have been labeled a nerd. But now literally become it's
The
literally
norm.
become the mainstream.
Yeah.
you know it's become the cool thing to do now, to watch these kind of things. If anything, if you aren't, you're missing out, which is why it's a shocker when you find out someone like Abdul Rehman hasn't watched Loki, for example. It's a rarity rather than a normality at this point. So if anything, they're just like, I just feel they're 5 steps ahead in everything they're doing. They're the timekeepers. We're the variants. We're the variants. We're the ones that
See,
are just trying to keep ourselves on the sacred timeline. And they're like, no, 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 my friend, we're branching things out. You know? So
I'm just gonna branch out to the timeline 10 minutes ago when you were mentioning this universe started in 2008 and we're in
mm,
2021 now. Back in
exactly.
2008, I had enough time to keep up with all the movies, to
Yeah.
keep up with the
Mm,
theories, to keep
that's
up with everything,
true.
I was like,
That's true.
okay, what's gonna happen? Where do we go from here? You go read the comics or whatever, and
Mm.
see. I don't really care enough anymore at this
That
point,
is actually kind of true now. That is
Yeah,
actually
like
kind of true now.
don't get me wrong, I will watch Loki,
For sure.
WandaVision. I will end up watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well at
But
some
not with
point.
much attention and care as you used to, possibly, because the quantity at this point is honestly just too much, right?
Hmm.
Unless you
Exactly.
literally are so devoted to this absolute beast, right? But not all of us have the time and luxury to do such things. But hey, if you do and that's what brings you joy, then go for it, bro. you know but but yeah.
Of course, some of us get joy from lifting the Champions League, with the Havertz
Oh,
beautiful
can't
finish.
speak for everyone. Can't speak for
um,
everyone. you know
or the thing is that with increased options as well, right? Like, I'm gonna go a little bit bigger, but you see all these different streaming platforms coming out. Um, People are just gonna, like, to watch the MCU series, you kind of have to be invested in it. You actually have to invest time and effort to keep up, right? And if people don't have that time and effort to give, they're just gonna go to Netflix, gonna like random play, gonna watch like a 20-minute episode while eating their lunch, gonna be satisfied, gonna close their lid, and gonna go about, like, doing their own thing.
yeah.
Having a loyal fan base, and you're also gonna narrow the potential viewers as well. Back in
mm,
2008, 2010, as soon as the trend picked up, they widened their audience, and that's why more and more people started watching it, right?
mm,
The more they start to demand as producers of a TV show, they're gonna restrict their audience, and that's just gonna like be worse for them.
mm.
So um where do you guys see, like, you know season 2 of Loki happening? Like, uh do you think it's wise for Marvel to continue on this path of producing seasons instead of producing a movie?
I think what they're trying to do with the whole serialization thing is maybe giving you more time with the characters that you otherwise wouldn't have in the movies. That's a formula that could work. The only issue, maybe for some of us viewers, is the fact that it's not the major names, if that makes sense. It's not
Yeah,
your Captain Americas, it's not your Iron Mans, it's not your Thors. But then again, at the same time, when you're thinking of these people, you prefer having them on the big screen, right? Personally, for me, I actually don't mind a slow story. I don't mind a slow build up as long as if I feel as though it works. I'll give you an
The
example.
payoff.
Exactly. For example, I'll give you an example. Better Call Saul is slower than Breaking Bad, but
oh
I
yeah,
genuinely, but I genuinely prefer Better Call Saul over Breaking Bad because of the characterization, because of the writing, because of how I empathize with the characters a lot more, considering that I've spent more time with them, you know. Like Umar mentioned that maybe he had some things he disliked with Loki, but it's only been one season. Maybe the second season might change his mind after he spent some more time with these characters, right? Whereas in a movie, there are so many things going on, especially action packed movies such as Marvel, right? Because the action scenes tell a part of the story, but you're not really seeing the characters and the dilemmas or the or that they have to face, or the monsters they have to deal with maybe internally, to the degree that you would maybe see in series, right? So I understand where they're going with it. I understand where they're going with it with series. I don't know why they did it though. I don't know what the intention was. I don't know if it was because they just wanted to try something new. I don't know if it was. I don't know if COVID had a role. I don't think maybe COVID had a role, because then you'd literally have they literally had to succumb to only that option of their viewers watching on streaming platforms. But I personally don't mind it. I like new things, so it's cool for me.
The, the thing is, right? People just don't go to the cinema as much now. Not just because of COVID. I
Especially because
think
of, yeah.
pre-COVID as well.
Oh
Like
yeah. Okay.
the audiences in cinemas were just reducing, and everybody's just,
Mm,
watching TV shows. And Netflix was like the most convenient thing in the world. And now there's like four or
exactly.
five different Netflixes out there. You've got Prime and whatnot,
Mm,
Hulu, and so obviously they want to go where the customers are, right?
exactly.
And
That's true as well.
that is where we are. So I just want to go back to the point where you mentioned about Loki. It's only been season one.
Mm,
I might enjoy season two, and
who knows?
I completely agree. I
Mm,
enjoy a slow build up as long as the payoff is worth it, as long as
exactly.
we get a better insight into a character. For example, WandaVision, we never really saw much of with Vision, and we saw so much
Exactly.
more, and I loved it. I loved that idea. The thing is, with Loki season two, I can't probably just go from Loki season one to Loki season two. I'm probably gonna have to watch all the
That's
crap that comes in the
true.
middle. I'm probably gonna have to watch the movies that are gonna
There
come in the
won't be
middle and whatnot,
crap. There'll be
just
that
to be up to
Spider-Man
date.
movie, you know.
Exactly, you know?
There won't
So
be crap.
you get my point. I
I
mean,
get your point. I get your
there's just a
point.
lot
Yeah.
of things, and yeah.
Mm,
I don't know. I understand that might be able to work with movies because it's a
mm.
one, as Abdul Rehman said, it's a one-time viewing. You go to the cinema, you watch it, you enjoy it, you come back, you go to the next one. But with these,
It
there's
becomes a
just
commitment somewhat.
exactly,
Yeah, that's
exactly,
true.
and
It's not a luxury anymore. It's something that you actually have to really make time for, you know.
mhm.
And if they don't get you hooked right off the bat, then let's say you want to watch possibly that Doctor Strange movie without necessarily having to watch Loki, but then you're watching the Doctor Strange movie literally clueless because you haven't watched Loki. So that's the pros and cons of having this long absolute insane longevity that Marvel have, and the continuation of its series and movies where everything is literally linked. It's cool, but at the same time it's a pain in the ass.
but think of
I
it,
think,
yeah,
yeah.
think of it like on the monetary, aspects as well. Omar
Mm,
mentioning how there's like five different Netflix series, Netflix and other streaming platforms out
yeah.
there. Obviously, this has been a major push for Disney Plus, And I don't
Mm.
think it's like COVID affected. I think that's like that's what their plan is. You know, they could have made movies out of these, but I think they just wanted to really push for Disney Plus, and that's why. And you look at it, right? They're releasing an episode per week, and their cost for Disney Plus is about $8 per month, right? So you
Mm.
have to pay $16 to watch one series of an what's it called of
A
WandaVision,
Marvel.
right? Of any Marvel series. Whereas you go to the cinema and you pay what, like $8, $9 for the movie.
Yeah.
You end up paying
That
more.
comes like every like how many years?
Yeah.
You know?
So they're
Yeah, that's
making a
true.
lot more money. Obviously they're offering more
I'm
content as
telling
well.
you, man.
They don't have to, and they don't even have to, because when there's streaming, right? All the revenue is just going to them. Okay?
Exactly, man.
But when
Mhm.
they make a movie out of it, they probably have to pay the actors more. They
That is
probably
true.
have to, split with movie distributors
Exactly.
like
The
local
editors and the,
cinemas and whatnot.
exactly.
So
And
Umar's right. Capitalism, sucks us.
Captain Capitalism, who's Captain America, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
See,
Yeah, go on. Sorry,
oh
go
no,
on.
no, sorry, go on. Yeah.
No. I want to hear your point. I want to hear my point. It doesn't necessarily have like much relevance to what Abdul Rehman has said.
Mm.
So go on.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say that I completely agree with Abdul Rehman. They've built like a business model, right? Where they've got ridiculous amounts of revenue coming through. And it might sometimes not even be due to the fact that their movies might be the best or, their TV series or whatever. It's just the way they've done it, I'm going to go out on a limb right here. And I'm going to say Man of Steel, the story itself was not a bad movie. But we saw
Mm-mm.
DC fail to go from there and build something off of that unit. That
Yeah.
DC universe, like when Justice League and whatnot came out, that was horrific. That was the worst. And you compare that to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and there's just it just feels like a much
Like
higher production value, even though those guys spent like 1 million taking out a mustache with CGI, right?
exactly. It just felt as though, well, like when you're thinking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that it was made by people doing it for the fans, and that they were fans themselves, and that they understood the characters. It wasn't even necessarily the stories that you see in Marvel. The cast selection itself is perfect, bro. You're thinking of Chris Evans as Captain America, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. You're thinking of, and then you're thinking of Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Perfect cast selection, and they play the roles to perfection as well. Whereas with DC, it just seems as though they try to be a money making machine that just failed. You know, the poor CGI effects, not necessarily poor CGI effects, but a lot of problems with movie production. We get a rumor here and there of what movie might come out, doesn't happen, right? And then you're
Yeah.
thinking of like how actors are not necessarily so into what's going on, and now you have the whole DC cinematic universe possibly canceled. And if you're a DC fan, which I am to a certain degree, I have read some of the comic books. I've watched some of the
Nerd.
animated movies. I am a massive nerd. Massive DC nerd, bro. Not a massive DC nerd, but I know like basically the Batman comics, right? And I was literally waiting for some of these to be adapted, only to be disappointed as usual. But if you're a Marvel fan, then Marvel is literally everything you've hoped for, man. Can
Yeah.
you imagine being a Marvel fan maybe in the 2000s or something, and you've lived long enough to see Infinity War, bro? Man, you'd be so grateful, right? Whereas we're just casual Marvel fans. We're just in for the ride. We don't really know much of
Eh,
what's going on in the
more so of like
comics.
entertainment, not even not even,
Exactly.
yeah,
Just a
just
shout out to those guys who Ricky killed off after, Infinity War. Like, what happened to Endgame, bro?
Ah, I enjoyed. I enjoyed Endgame, but not to the same degree that I did Infinity War, if that makes sense. You know?
Those people represented the half the population that Thanos
No, no,
wiped
no.
out.
Go back to dust, like go back to dust. You know.
Oh
Yeah.
god. They only came back towards the end, right? But yeah,
Yeah,
going like pre 2008, right? I
yeah.
think it's also that DC was just more successful historically, right? And they're still
The
riding those,
cartoons,
yeah,
especially.
everything, even in like even in the cinema. Sure, there were like standalone movies and whatnot,
It
but
was mainly because of the Dark Knight trilogy, if we're
the
being
I
honest.
mean, probably the one of the best, if
Mm.
not the best trilogy
The
out there.
best.
Batman has always been a cash cow, even with
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
Nicholson as the Joker, that was ridiculously good.
Um, so I think they were just less resting on their laurels for like so long. They were just like, you know, they were taking it for granted. Like, hey, we got such a great following, anyways. Everyone loves
Mm,
Superman. Not even the
mm.
like. I mean, standalone Superman movies were such a hit. I remember,
Mm.
like, everyone would watch them. I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna be honest. In my childhood, I did not know of many what's it called, Marvel
Marvel
heroes,
superheroes.
except for
Yeah.
Thor and Hulk.
Not Spider-Man.
Oh, and Spider-Man, my bad.
What about that Spider-Man show you'd see on NBC 3, bro? Come on, or
I love,
Space Tune.
okay,
Come
okay,
on.
and Spider-Man, but there was a reason
Yeah,
for that. Spider-Man had cartoons, Spider-Man had their own
that's
movies,
true.
right?
That's true.
Hulk had his own movie, and Hulk was kind of like, the
That's
idea of
true.
Hulk was actually cool.
Already
Yeah,
evident, right? Yeah.
yeah. And I knew more about X-Men, and they're also Marvel, but I didn't know about America. I didn't know about Iron Man. I didn't care, and like
Yeah.
the idea would have actually seemed daft at that point when I was a child. I thought maybe Superman, Batman, Flash, they're cooler, they're better. I, I think it's gonna take some time, but for DC, they gotta really, like, sort things out.
It's funny because when you think about it, in my opinion, the heroes that DC have are bigger household names.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
you're thinking Superman, Aquaman, The Flash, Green Lantern, because they're enough to stand on their own and have their own big movies, right? I feel as though the thing is though, I feel as though, when you're thinking of that first Man of Steel movie and you're thinking of that first Justice League movie, I feel as though the Dark Knight trilogy for DC is a bit of a curse in the sense that they always just try to follow that dark path that was set with the Dark Knight trilogy, which is only befitting for Batman's character.
Yeah,
Why am I watching a dark movie for Superman? That
for
doesn't make
Superman,
sense.
not even for Superman, even for Justice League,
Yeah, why? It
I,
even
should
for
be.
Justice League,
It
like,
should
turn up the
be.
brightness.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm like thinking, bro, it should, the saturation a little bit. Why is it so?
Yeah,
I can't even see. What color is that on Superman's suit?
is
Purple?
it
Okay,
gray? Is
not
it
purple, but
blue?
you get me. Like a Superman movie should be the closest thing to an Captain America movie. It should be maybe
For sure.
patriotic. It should be
Yeah.
upbeat. It should be inspirational. It shouldn't make me want to freaking mellow myself in misery, bro. Why is Superman crying at the end of the movie? He should be smiling and giving me hope
Yeah.
of how impossible it is to have capped shoulders and a massive chest that he has, you know. But you see where I'm coming from?
No, I completely agree. Like, especially like Superman's portrayal, right? Like, he's supposed to be someone who's very well connected with the citizens. He's someone that
Exactly.
talks a lot, actually. He's someone that is like a happy-go-lucky figure rather than that very serious, brooding figure. The serious,
Exactly,
brooding
man.
figure is Batman, and he's the one who's
He's
making the jokes.
the jokes. I'm rich. What?
Doesn't make sense. But
That
either way,
do
wrapping it
you
up
guys think that
before
has
we.
something to do with casting as well, though? I mean,
Yes, that
do you
is
guys
exactly
do
what I
you
was
guys
gonna
see
say.
Henry Cavill as Superman? I mean, he's a great actor, For
mm,
example, Mission Impossible 6, I loved him. But
The Witcher and other things as well, I'm
I don't
assuming.
think he's listen. I don't think he's the bad fit.
Uh,
I don't think
I don't
he's
think it's
a
him.
bad fit. I don't
I don't
think
think it's
it's
him.
him. But
I think it's the direction
just
and the
before we
story
get into it,
writing.
yeah, just before we get
Yeah.
into it, I'm gonna bring up this Marvel. Like, do you guys see how insane it is? How committed to their role these guys were? in like in the
Yeah.
Marvel universe. Not a single, what's it called, character change. Not a single actor change in over,
Yeah,
what's it called,
dude.
15 years. Here they can't select one proper Batman. You know, Robert Pattinson's gonna be the next Batman in like a different movie, right? We've already had like three Jokers. What's going on? Like,
Exactly.
how is someone gonna like be like, oh, that's the guy who played Joker? You gotta have one to
Consistency.
one.
Does anyone
Like,
even remember Jared Leto was the Joker at some point?
he's supposed
Does
to be the
anyone even
Joker in the
care at
next
this
movie, by
point?
the way.
You,
He's
you,
supposed
you
to
know,
be
you know,
yeah,
you,
in what's it
you
called,
know,
in Snyder's cut. He's supposed to be the Joker in the next Snyder's cut movie.
you know what's the
Yeah.
funny thing? Jared Leto for his role as Joker got a lot of hate, and the funny thing is, I don't even think he's a bad actor. I think he's actually a
Mm.
good actor. Because
He
I heard when he was auditioning for it, he didn't know what he was getting into, and he literally found out, whoa, I just literally auditioned and got the role for quite literally maybe the biggest villain role possibly ever, right? Let's face it. In my opinion,
Yeah,
who plays Joker gets more recognition than who plays Thanos easily, for sure, in my opinion, because of the standard that was set by Heath Ledger,
oh
right?
yeah,
It's
of course.
it's borderline impossible, and then you have Joaquin Phoenix,
Yeah,
killing the role that he had for his specific Joker, and now you're trying to find, and now you need to have Jared Leto trying to meet that middle ground for the cinematic universe, but which is something that Marvel seems to have done flawlessly, and their contracts span a long time, by the way. Their contracts span a long time. I'm telling you, man, that Marvel that Marvel machine is insane.
no, but like,
Can I just say
I just
something? Can I
want
just say something real quick? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you imagine if Marvel wasn't owned by Disney, man? Like, can you imagine if someone like can you imagine if you had your superheroes just casually swearing? It would feel like more humane. It would feel like something out of The Boys. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it'd feel like it'd be more adult. But yeah, anyways, go on, guys, go on.
I just want to say I don't think Jared Leto
Yeah, you were
was
about to
the
say something
worst
more, Abdul
Joker.
Rehman. Yeah.
Yeah. Um
Mm.
he wasn't a bad Joker. If you like listen to him, right? He says that around about like 90% of his scenes got cut out of the final
yeah,
movie. Um
Mm.
Even apart from that, relating to the comics, he was probably a closer Joker to the comics with like such a crazy mind. He
complete.
was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
disgusting, filthy. He was supposed to be
yeah.
that kind of a Joker
Closer to the
compared to
origin story.
Heath
Yeah,
Ledger's, which was
exactly.
more
Mm.
like you know
Crime
suited
based,
to
kingpin. Yeah.
exactly. So I don't necessarily agree with the hate that he gets, but I do
Which is
understand why fans are furious. I
and
mean,
frustrated,
I mean,
right?
I
mm,
also think it's worse because what's it called? The standalone Joker film with what's it
Did
called?
so well.
Joaquin Phoenix did so well, but the fact that you already have a Joker casted for like a different set of movies, and
Mm.
now there's a standalone film and there's a completely different actor playing in that.
Eh,
How
And
is that ever going to make sense?
and you know
How's
what's
that for
but
the general, someone who's not following, everything?
exactly.
How's that gonna make sense? For example,
ooh,
if my what's it called, niece. Okay, not my niece, but like, let's say if my mother
Yeah.
walks in front of the TV screen and she's like, "Oh, this is Joker," and the next day
Yeah.
I'm watching the other movie, my mom's like, "Wait, what?
Literally on NBC 2, that's the movie that comes up.
This is not Joker. The other one's Joker." How are they gonna?
Oh
How's the
god.
general consumer gonna like keep up with this?
Just
And
to
not
add on to this point, remember, this is what DC got wrong. Remember, I mean, I think they're still going on, but all the shows that they had on the CW network, The Flash, they had Gotham,
Oh
they had I don't know what
yeah.
kind. You'd watch The
I
Flash
Hawk,
remember
there, and
that.
you'd
Oh,
come to the
Arrow.
movies, Arrow, exactly, and then
Arrow,
you'd come and you'd see
Wait,
Ezra Miller.
dude.
Supergirl.
Dude, don't you know there's literally, I think, a CW show called Superman and Lois Lane?
Really?
Really?
I swear. I think there is.
let,
I swear.
let me search this real quick.
There is. I think I'm right.
Yeah,
Check it out. I think I'm
but
right.
you know what's the worst part of it all? The
Yeah.
Flash
Superman
and
and Lewis.
the Flash is still
Right.
going on and whatnot.
But you know what's funny though? Like a lot of the fans would mention that okay, we know what a CW show is, right? We know who their target audience is pretty much, right? And we know how these shows will eventually end up. But ironically enough, for the earlier stages of the season, or maybe even mid stages of like the show, they at least stay true to the characters, unlike what the cinematic universe would do. And not only the cinematic universe, I'm talking, and not only the series, sorry, these standalone films portray the characters a lot more than the cinematic universe does. For example, you're thinking about the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. That portrayal of Joker was great. And that potential Robert Pattinson Batman movie,
Batman.
where it was like very dark, broody, but very befitting for exactly the Batman, but was very befitting for maybe the themes you'd see in Batman, right? So if you're having standalone movies doing a better job than the cinematic universe, then something is not right, which is which is a shame if you're a fan, and you've been looking forward to this thing for years, and you've been like following it arguably religiously, you could say. So it's like, it's the same way we're really committed to football. Some people are really committed to these series. Some people are really committed to these
Yeah.
movies and shows. They literally know everything in and out. The same way we know who's going to be the starting 11. I know who's going to be the starting 11 for Chelsea. I know, obviously, but I know who's going to be the starting 11 for United. Not sure I know why, but you guys get the gist. So that's what I mean.
Well, I think we've had a fun discussion here on the 60 podcast. Well, starting off with Loki and Marvel's branching off into their what's it called? Television or streaming platforms. Featuring WandaVision, Loki, and Winter Soldier. Is it not Winter Soldier? Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm getting there. I feel like a boomer catching up because everything's happening so much and so fast.
That's fine.
Um, yeah. See, never had this problem with movies. Never had to, keep up with three different series. One movie would come after like 6 months, 8 months, a year. I'd watch it,
Hmm.
and until next year. Um, do you guys have anything else to add before we wrap it up?
No, not in particular. Just
Well,
maybe
thank you for tuning
apologies
in.
to people that. Come on.
Sorry about that, but
Apologies for the
thank you.
spoilers. Apologies for the
I was
spoilers.
just gonna say like maybe just apologize to the people that haven't seen Loki, and if we maybe spoiled some things. But come on, who hasn't?
I'm sure. I'm sure
Not
they
everybody's
wouldn't have
Abdul
kept up with
Rehman.
it.
So yeah,
Listen, I was here, and unless if I've started watching it, I don't think I would have missed out on it. Do you get that?
yeah, it's fine.
Like, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it
I
would
know,
have
I
been.
know.
I think it would have been spoiled if I was watching it. But since I haven't even started
Exactly.
watching it, it's kind of
It
like,
shouldn't even be a big deal.
yeah,
You don't even know what I'm talking about.
there were no major spoilers for sure.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and we hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.